When I eventually woke up and saw my mom, it was like this glow, this energy around her. When I thought I was asleep, when I was actually deceased, I found myself going through this tunnel. And the tunnel was like oval, and it was amber in color. When I get to the end of the tunnel, then I found myself floating down the highway. And then all of a sudden, I shot directly up into space just like that. I was still aware that I existed. I was part of everything with no fear, no doubt, no anger, no sorrow, or nothing. I was just there observing. As they say in the Bible, when Abraham, he said, I am, that's what I was. I was part of I am. I was part of everything. It felt like now that I woke up, it felt like this was the dream. And where I was, because I was so familiar with that place and it was just so natural. So when I got back, it felt like this was the dream. So I had to adjust. Most people get it confused thinking that love is this emotion, love is this feeling, but love is so much more than what the average person thinks.
Well, hello, Jay Martin. Welcome to the show. I am truly honored by you joining and looking forward to our conversation. How are you feeling today?
I am well. Thank you for asking. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing great. And I got to tell you, every week we bring you powerful stories about life after death, awakening, and what it means to be human. And if that resonates, you'll love what's coming. Today, I'm joined by Jay Martin, who on August 18th, 2016, drove himself to the ER, and he never walked back out. His family was told he'd been gone all day. The doctors prepared to shut the machines down until his 18-year-old daughter said, not yet. And the next morning, there was a faint pulse. And what happened in that in-between changed everything. A tunnel of amber, an Earth-like world pulsing with a tree of living energy, and a whirl of stars later recognized as Andromeda. Well, when Jay woke, he saw a glow around his family and knew love isn't just a word, it's an actual presence. Now today, Jay shares the day he died, the 26 strokes, the 6 days on ECMO life support, the proposal he mouthed from a hospital bed, and now meditation helped rebuild a life from zero. Jay, it is truly a joy to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Just recant some of those things kind of got me a little.
Well, it does me too, and it certainly does the audience. And that was just kind of the warm up to set the stage to let folks know where we are. But yeah, it is a very emotional story, and I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing it. And I tell you, you share it in the way it feels most comfortable. I'll give the microphone and the stage over to you, and you can take it away. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you much. I'm grateful for you having me. A little backstory. I was born on the south side of Chicago in Inglewood. Was known as one of the rough parts of the city. We had our challenges. We had our ups and downs. There was violence. There was drugs. There was gangs. However, there was family and the love and support from family. I grew up when I was a youth watching my dad and uncle play with drugs and cocaine and stuff accidentally, and fights and rumors about who got this or who didn't get this. And just living through those things, gave me the strength to keep going to the next, to the next event that was happening in my life. But as you're growing up, you don't have too much of a choice, but to, get to the next thing. But as I started getting older, to keep ourselves out of trouble and to keep ourselves occupied as youth, we started dancing, doing concerts, out sock hops for schools, even performed at the Apollo Theater in New York twice. One were like 15 and the other one I was like 17. But I saw my neighborhood, it slowly started to change a bit more than what it was as I was growing up. Started seeing the gangs and the drug dealers start to be more brazen. They would start to sell drugs on the corners this time, even when we had children walking around and stuff outside, just playing and stuff. And it was beginning to be too much for me, until one day I found like a bag of crack cocaine on the side of my house. And I told my buddies, I said, you know what? I'm up. Y'all can have this. I don't want my kids being part of this at all. So it would just so happen that my kid's mom at the time, she had came up to Columbus, Ohio to try to do a better life because her parents had just moved up here. So I wasn't going to go at first, but then when had the thing with the drugs and stuff like that, I said, I'm up, so I left the city, packed up my two-door Hyundai Accent hatchback with a tote in the back seat. I mean, a tote in the trunk and three children in the back seat, a car seat and two booster seats, So when we finally got here, it was quiet. It was different from my upbringing, what I was used to, but it was a needed away that we needed, it was uncomfortable because we had to start living with her parents when we first got here because I had no place to live. We had no place to live and they didn't really like me at the time. So that was a bit uncomfortable sometimes. But I just kept going, trying to get it to going. And then it just so happened that just like the world around me just started to test me more, started to crumble, for lack of better words. We had Aaliyah, the singer Aaliyah. She had just died in a plane crash, and I had recounted meeting her and almost danced for her in the past. And then we had 9/11. Just so happened today is the anniversary of it. But it was just a whole lot happening, trying to find a job, trying to take care of three kids at the time and a fiance. And a year later, we ended up getting our own place. And again, the test started to come. And it started to come in a way I would have never expected. And you would think growing up in the environment that I did grow up, I would be used to it, but not the things that was coming. So one night, I want to say 2002, me and the mother of my children, now we were having a disagreement. Our relationship was crashing. Then I get a call from my dad telling me that my grandmother had passed away. We knew it was coming because of her age and everything, so we wasn't really too heartened by it. But we had to go bury her. As we come back. I had to get to work. We started working for Coca-Cola again because I had worked for them previously in Chicago. Started working for Coca-Cola again and just doused myself in work. Then the following year, then we get a call from my cousin this time, and me and my mother, my children had just broken up. And he tells me that our cousin Vale was just murdered. And he was murdered on the same lawn as our grandmother who had just passed away the prior year. So that was heavy because I had just told him, because I had left him up there, and I told him that the first person I was going to come see when I get back up there was going to be him. And I never got that chance to see him. So we went up there, we buried him. It was sad, but I didn't have time to mourn. Came back home, just got back into the hustle and bustle of things, working, keeping busy. Didn't have time to, really grieve. So time get on, I start working for Coca-Cola again. I had a routine visit, health visit for my health, and came to find out I was diagnosed with lupus. So he told me about lupus. I didn't really think too much about it. He just said, okay, I got this one thing. Okay, whatever. Keep working. Kept working. Then it seemed like the following year we had another death in the family. Me and my mother and my children having issues. This and that, and it was just crazy. Again, no time for mourning. Time goes on, then I get diagnosed for severe depression. And then after that, severe anxiety. And then again, another death, then another death, another death. And they just kept coming. It was just like overwhelming, but it was just crazy. So around 2012, I was again working my butt off, not paying attention to my body, and then got diagnosed with having a pulmonary embolism. So it was like, okay, now I have severe depression, severe anxiety, I have lupus. Now I have a pulmonary embolism. And I'm having these issues with the mother of my children and everything. this is too much, So as I'm working, I decide to pick up a book that I heard about from watching television. I believe it was Ringo Starr. He mentioned it about a book called The Autobiography of a Yogi. So I got that book. He started talking about his life and meditation and everything. And I said, I think I want to use this to try meditation and see if it helped me ground myself and help keep me together while everything is happening. So I would do meditation, and the meditation, it did help, but I was ignoring my body, and everything that happened. I was still working and not mourning and still going through things, but at the same time ignoring my body. I started to lose weight. Finances started to happen. Home issues started to happen. Times where I have to go through the couch just to find some change just so I can eat an apple for that day while I'm at work, because I had to choose between feeding my kids, keeping a roof over their head. So I did all that, and Apple was all I needed. Who knew at that time to keep going? So the year of 2016, I had just started talking to someone in 2015 December, and I did another routine because I had to go keep getting checked. So I do a routine visit probably once a year. So I was doing another routine visit, coming to find out not just one. I had one pulmonary embolism. I had three pulmonary embolisms. On top of that, now I have angina. So I'm like, I'm a good person. What is happening? Unless I'm not mean to anybody, I don't curse anybody out. I'm kind. I'm compassionate. I just don't understand it. It's just like, why are these things happening to me? And again, I had to just say they happening nevertheless, whether I wanted to or not. Keep going. Then one evening, I want to say August the 17th, 2016, I was coming in for work, like working for Coca-Cola. I was coming in from work that evening. I went upstairs, walked up the stairs, was getting ready to turn in, proceed to call my girlfriend who I just started dating, my mom, and my friend, which I consider my brother in Chicago. And the next thing you know, I'm waking up in a hospital, seeing what seemed like weeks later or a week later. My wife ended up confirming it to me. She said, no, you was out for a while. I said, well, all I know is when I woke up, I was in the hospital. Apparently, what happened was I drove myself to the hospital August 18th. So it was like early in the morning, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So I drove myself to the hospital, parked my car perfectly. As soon as I went through the emergency room doors, I collapsed and went to cardiac arrest. Um, and I always chalked this up to saying that it had to be a spirit that was, or angel that was driving for me because I don't remember any of it. So they called it code blue. They came out to resuscitate me, get me back, and then I coded again. They got me back again. They put a stent in my heart, and then they flew me to Riverside Hospital, also here in Columbus, Ohio. When I got to the hospital, they say I was fighting, so they was going to fight with me because they said they saw my eyes open. So what they proceeded to do was they then called my family. They called my mom in Chicago and said, someone need to get here with him. He's in bad shape. Just someone get here. They called my kids and their mom and told them everything and stuff was going on. So while they working on me and trying to get me going and everything, about 45 minutes later, my mom, while they was on their way here, about 45 minutes later, no, they weren't on their way here, but about 45 minutes later, they called my parents and said, we sorry, we lost them. He didn't make it. They wasn't really trying to hear what they were saying, so they just kept coming. My kids were notified. My youngest son, called my girlfriend as she was coming in from work, and she worked at the same hospital, but she didn't know I was there. So as she's coming in, walking up the stairs, my youngest son called her and said, Dad died. So she rushed right back out the house, back to the hospital. So when they got to the hospital, everybody got to the hospital and everything. And when my mom finally got there, probably late evening, I want to say around, late afternoon, when she finally got there, she was greeted by the mother of my children. She got off the elevator. My mom got off the elevator, and my mom said, "Okay, where's my baby?" The mother of my children said, "He's been gone all day. He's gone." So they proceeded to come into the room. Everybody was saying their goodbyes. Doctor told her everything that was going on. And my daughter, she was 18. And they said, "You have to make this decision so we can, to start the process of signing the papers and everything." And she said, "No, he's still in there." They said, the doctors and my mom said, "No, he's still gone. He's gone. He's been gone all day." And she proceeded to turn around and look at my mom with tears in her eyes and grab my mom by her waist and said, "Grandma, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. He's still in there. Don't make me do it." And she said, "Baby, it's up to you. He's gone, but it's up to you. You have to do it." And she said, "No, no, no." But she said, "Can we just wait?" The doctor said, "We can wait, but he's already gone, but we can wait." So my family proceeded to go home that evening. They started making memorial plans, packing up the house and everything. And it is just so weird that they didn't even wait till I was in the ground before they started cleaning out my house. you know. But they started making memorial plans. Social media posts was going around. Everyone saying, "We're sorry for your loss." And everybody's talking about how I touched them, and my cousin Marcus was confirming to everybody that I died, last night. And my job was also notified because they were there at this. They came to the hospital the same day they found out as well, which is that same day that everybody was there. And as soon as they got the news when they got there and everything, they came to say their goodbyes. They started the process. They sent the condolences letter to my family. So I still have that letter to look at. Sometimes a bit morbid, to see that they're talking about you. So the next day, while they cleared out my house, started to make memorial plans, my family got another call that morning and said, "We don't understand it, but we found a faint pulse." So they were excited, elated at the same time, and shocked. So they rushed back up to the hospital, and the doctors were saying, "Okay, even though we found his faint pulse, we don't want to get your hopes up too high, because if he did survive, he only have about a 20-something% chance of survival. And if he do, we don't know what his quality of life is going to be because he's been gone all day, all his organs and everything." They said, "We don't care. Keep him on." So they hooked me up to a machine called an ECMO machine to start pumping the blood through my body, and through my heart, since my heart had slowly started up. And my wife, since she worked at the hospital, she got to tell me, she said, usually the ECMO machine is very temporary for like maybe a day or so, and they usually use it on children. She said, "But you were on it for almost like 7 days." I said, hmm. you know? So they had me on this machine and put me in medically induced coma. And while I was in this coma, I had 26 strokes. Um, and they again was like, "Wow, this guy is still fighting. He's still here." So they kept me on this thing and, kept me going. And ironically, I didn't know I was deceased when everything had happened. I thought I was just sleeping, you know. Um, and when I said that I woke up, when I eventually woke up and saw my mom, it was like this glow, this energy around her. And I was familiar with that energy because of what I was experiencing when I thought I was asleep. When I thought I was asleep, when I was actually deceased, I found myself going through this tunnel. And the tunnel it was like oval, and it was amber in color. And I said this before, it wasn't hell, people. I'm not a bad person, so it wasn't hell. But it was amber in color, and it seemed like there were like hands or people reaching out for me. It wasn't malicious. I wasn't worried or having any kind of emotion, but I just noticed them reaching out. So, and I was just going with it. When I get to the end of the tunnel, and I found myself floating down the highway. I didn't have any form. I was just there. It was dark and it was gloomy. And it just so happened that the hospital is literally right off the expressway. So it only made sense that I would see that was there. And then all of a sudden, I shot directly up into space just like that. Didn't know how I got there or anything, but I was still aware that I was existed. My consciousness was still aware that I existed. I was part of everything. I part of the universe, part of the ether, part of everything with no fear, no doubt, no anger, no sorrow or nothing. I was just there observing. And I look, I want to say far in front of me and I see this planet and I don't know if it was Earth, but like I said, it was like Earth-like. And from this planet, which was huge, and it had this energy protruding from the planet, coming up like in the form of a tree. And the energy was like circulating in and out of the planet, just circulating in and out. So I saw this planet, and it was very pretty, by the way. And then I look to my left and I see this swirl of stars, what I thought like maybe was a portal or something or some kind of tunnel. It wasn't 2 years later when I was surfing the web that I found out that it was the Andromeda galaxy, because as I was searching the web, I was like, wait a minute. I said, I saw this before. I said, this is what I saw. I said, it was hard to explain to people, but this is what I saw. And I will let people know that what I thought was just a portal, it was actually a galaxy. So that was pretty cool. But again, no fear, no anger, no hate, no doubt, no nothing. I was just there. As they say in the Bible, when he told, I think it was Abraham, he said, I am. That's what I was. I was part of I am. I just was. I was part of everything. Then I hear my voice being called. It was saying, Jay. I didn't know where it came from. Well, I know that I would, like, I want to say looked around, even though I don't have any eyes, but I gazed like towards my right and I didn't see anything, but I heard my name. Then I saw the planet again and I looked back at the galaxy, the planet and then the galaxy. And then after that, it was just like, I remember dark, don't remember anything else. So when I did wake up, I was at so much peace. I was so calm, relaxed. I wasn't afraid. And it seemed weird because it felt like now that I woke up, it felt like this was the dream. And where I was where I was, because I was so familiar with that place and it was just so natural. So when I got back, it felt like this was the dream. So I had to adjust, to what I was seeing, seeing these people, seeing family, seeing again, love, the entity of love. Because me being where I was and being part of everything, love was part of that. Love was part of that just being, when they say God is love, and then they talk about the Trinity, God, the Spirit, and the Son. The Spirit is its own separate entity. Love is part of that as well. Love is also its own separate entity. And I believe a lot of people, most people, get it confused thinking that love is this emotion, love is this feeling, or something like that. But love is so much more than what the average person thinks. So just getting adjusted to life and everything, I had everybody coming to see me. And when I finally, I want to say, left the hospital and I saw everything outside, it's as if I was seeing everything for the first time. It's almost like I had never seen it before. I was literally newborn. It was the clouds, the buses, the cars, the buildings. It was just like shock and awe just looking at them like, what is this? Just observing. In the process of trying to get used to everything, I had to overgo uh, countless therapies to learn how to walk, to learn how to talk, to learn how to write again. Um, I knew what it felt like to have the the idea of what you want to say, but it not come out. The frustration that it's not coming out the way you thought. Um, and it was just a healing process through it all. And the girl that I had just started dating on several months was still there. I was shocked, you know, because it was like some girls you just started dating, they were like, it's a bit much, and they probably keep it moving. But no, she stayed. I mean, and I was so impressed and so in a um what's the word, angelic, calm feeling where I was. And I was in a hospital bed, I looked up at her and was surprised to see her, and I turned around and my eyes got watery. Then I looked up at her again, and even though I had a trach and stuff in my mouth and my throat while I was at the hospital, I mouthed the words. I said, "Will you marry me?" She said yes, of course, but that's my husband and wife today. But throughout all my getting things together, my therapy, she was there. She had my back. She got me to all my therapy. She would take off work. Even if she got docked points for taking off work, she would do it. Got me to everything I needed. I didn't like it sometimes, but because she could be really rough at times, but she was there. She had my back. And through the process of going through that, my life changed in so many ways to where I saw life totally different than what the average person saw it. Trivial things in this world, it didn't mean anything. It was like the newborn child, and it wasn't until it started turning on the television because it was around election time when I left the hospital and everything. I started seeing all this hate, this division, and all this spite. And that's when I started to feel sad, to see like, what is this? What did I come back to? Why are these people behaving this way towards each other? And it was so hurtful, but it didn't stop there because as time went on, I started feeling everything. I mean, literally the world and the pain that the world was going through. And it was very sad. It was to the point to where I'm already sick and not feeling well from everything that came as after effect from those strokes and organs and everything being down. I had tubes still on me when I left the hospital to drain my um uh I forgot what organ, and a feeding tube that was on me. I had a vest on to shock my heart back into rhythm just in case it jumped out of rhythm because they were still watching me. Um, so going through these physical sicknesses, I was still starting to feel these emotional sicknesses, and I didn't know why, but them adding to my physical sickness, it was overwhelming. And then I was like, oh, I just don't like this. And it would disappear, then I get back to my regular physical sickness. But then it will happen every so often. I'm like, okay, this just don't feel good. And then next thing you know, I think it was a Vegas. It was that mass shooting in Vegas. And then and I would stop feeling that physical sickness. I would feel better. I mean, that emotional sickness, I would feel better. Then the Vegas thing happened. And then I would start getting that feeling. And then when it subsided, then we had the train derailment in Washington. So I was like, okay, it's just starting to feel a little weird. Do these have any kind of coincidence? Do these correlate or anything? So I was like, so I just kept going. And then I started having these feelings again. And then I told my wife, I said, you know what? I said, I'm gonna put it on social media so I can know when everybody else gets just to check. So I said, so it was one day, I think it was a Thursday, I said, something's about to happen. I posted it on Facebook. I said, something's about to happen that's going to change the world. And it was a sad feeling that I had. It's just, it's not going to be a good thing. And when that feeling dissipated, the next day we had George Floyd pass away, his thing. So I'm like, okay, this is not a coincidence anymore. I'm even starting to get goosebumps, you know? So I'm like, I'm telling my wife, I said, I don't know what this means. I'm seeing these things, but I don't know if they're for a reason for me to help people. Is it for me to help stop these things before they happen? I'm just not getting it. I don't understand it. So I prayed because I usually pray and meditate. And I prayed and meditated and asked the creator, I said, please just take it off of me. It's a bit much. It's too much. I just can't do it. And he took it away. And we just left with my regular physical illnesses. So I was at one point in time, I said, you know what? I think I'm feeling better now. I think I can take it. I'm strong enough. Just give it back to me. I don't know why I said that, but I went to meditate in my son's closet, which is really dark and quiet. So I go there. And during my meditation, I had this like vision of these soldiers and they were like fighting each other. And they had on green and it was like red in their cap. And I said, I don't know why they're fighting each other, but they're all soldiers. They fighting against each other. And I told my wife, she said, I don't know. I said, me either, but I don't understand why. And it was shortly after that we had the Russia and Ukraine war. So I was like, oh, that makes sense. And I said, because at one point in time, Ukraine and Russia were affiliated in the past. So it makes sense they were fighting each other. And then the goosebumps raised up some more, and I said, this is a gift, but I don't know how to hone in on this gift. I don't know how to use it. And another one would come. And this was, I want to say, December 22nd, 2022, I believe. The morning, 6 a.m. in the morning, I had a vision during my meditation because I usually meditate in the morning where everybody's asleep and at night when everybody going to bed. And I meditated in the closet as I usually do. And then I got these visions. They were just like random. One was, and I posted it on Facebook. It said ship, the name ship, the letter red and had the number 106. And then it said car pile up. It said pile up. So, and it was so clear and vivid. And then it was that afternoon, watching the news turn on, we had a car pile up here in Ohio on mile marker 106. And it was like, okay, again, what am I to do with this? To just have it is, to me, it don't seem like it's enough. What am I missing? So my health didn't get any better. And we just had a little one in 2020, and it was just too much for me to start giving a lot of energy towards finding out what that gift is or why I have it. So I paid attention to my physical energy from trying to keep it together from being sick all the time and watching a little one, and being a stay-at-home dad. And I just had to make a choice, am I going to live and just wait for it to come to me naturally, or I'm going to keep letting this bother me and be curious about what it means. So I felt that I can just continue to live, try to keep it together, and starting over has been a task, because in the process, the following year, after everything happened, I lost my job at Coca-Cola that I held for nearly 20 years. I lost my home that I had bought for the kids. I lost pretty much everything. I had to literally start over, and that start over process has been really challenging. And when I tell people my story, they look at me and they say, well, you can't tell by looking at you. I said, well, that's because we're just passing by, when in fact, there's a lot of damage that was done to my brain, a lot of damage that was done to my nerves, nerve damage, damage that was done to my cerebellum to where I have vertigo, chronic vertigo. There's no medicine, only surgery, which the specialist and the neurosurgeon was saying they don't suggest it because it can cause new problems or it can create a worse problem for what I already have. So it's something I have to deal with. I have issues with my eyes, with seeing, and you never know when I'm like totally gonna be down because I really, really don't feel well. And I like to tell people if you really want to know what one of the things about me having vertigo all the time feels like, I said, imagine going on a roller coaster. If you ride roller coasters, when you get off the roller coaster, you're dizzy. You have to wait a while to stabilize so you can get back on another roller coaster. I say, imagine being stuck at the part before stabilization. Before you stabilize, you stuck there all the time. And I'm like, that's what it's like. And when it's worse, it's those times where you just feel like you just want to, excuse my word, vomit, and it's a bit much. But I still keep it going because I'm pretty resilient and hard headed at times, even when my body says, you remember what happened last time, right? Slow down. And I get hard headed and I say, well, I have a family to take care of. I have to try. I have to try. If my body's like, you, you, stop, you just can't do that. My wife would say,
That's a great story, and it's a reminder to ask for help now and then too.
yeah,
It's a family, and you can actually reach out and you can do a lot yourself, and you can get those around you, loved ones, to pitch in as well. Sometimes they don't know they need that they could
yeah,
help, and unless you ask them and invite them to, and then they're happy too. Well, Jay, thanks. That was a phenomenal story, and you
thank
told
you.
it so well. The backstory there coming into that and then going through the medical issues and then your experience, on the other side. Folks love listening to this because, they may have someone who's passed and they want to know a bit about the other side, and that it is, like you mentioned and others do, just all love and compassion and a place that you really want to be. And oftentimes that feels like home, and that feels
Yes,
like high resolution experience, but this feels like a dream. I like how you characterize that also. And then
yes,
when you came back, a lot of times folks say, do you have extra abilities? And it sounds like you have physical ailments that's a part of that whole NDE process, but you also have these visions that
yeah.
are allowing you to see sorts of things. And it's nice that you figured out the most quietest place in your entire place is your son's closet, a little dark place. Maybe there's maybe some toys you got to throw out of the way and some clothes, but when you get in there, it's dark. Then you can come back inside entirely and get back to that peaceful place that you
Yes,
saw on the other side. And maybe that's where those visions come to you. And so you go through physical hardship in your body and mental and emotional hardship, and then wow, even to go through the notion of losing the job and the home and so forth. But you've even bounced back in so many ways with such a positive attitude. But you also created a resource hub for other folks, and maybe we could talk about the day lift that you've created as well.
sure. When I got more mobile, I had an idea that I wanted to create a place where people can come meditate, learn meditate, or relax in whatever way they want to do it. So it was my idea. I started the business. I wanted to be a physical place. Unfortunately, because starting over, I wasn't able to obtain the funds to do it. So what I did, when it's all said and done, I created a website called Daleth Aromatherapy and Meditation Sanctuary.com. And on this website, you can find all the resources and companies and businesses that can help you create a sanctuary within in the confines of your own home. So I felt that if I couldn't bring you the physical, I can at least help you create one in your own home with that website.
Nice. Okay, cool. So we will put all the links in the description. Folks can click on that and find it for sure. Well, I've got this section that I have coming up called Heart's First Whisper. And with that, I've got questions that I prepared ahead of time based on my experience watching your videos and researching the experience and the stories you've told. So these are just for you, and it's just for the audience to get to know you better, and you use your heart to answer these, not your mind or your thoughts. How does that sound?
Sounds like a plan to me.
Excellent. Well, let's do that. And you know what? The first question is right here. If love is an actual presence, what's one tiny daily behavior that best lets that presence act through you now?
Look in the mirror and tell yourself that you, that you love yourself. Look in the mirror and do it maybe 3 times. Each time say, I love you, I love you, I love you. And when you're telling yourself that, you end up feeling better about yourself, and you'll find out by telling yourself you love yourself better, it'll be a bit easier to go out and look at others and say, I love you as well.
That's right. You got to love yourself before you can love others. Hey, let me ask you about this because you're here in physical form and you were on the other side. And on the other side, you were the I am, right? So when you come back here, do you differentiate between the I am that's really that consciousness and then this physical body that you see here? So when you say, I love me, are you referring to the body or are you referring to the I am? Do you differentiate?
I don't. I refer to both because when it comes like to the body and the spirit, when I say like when I mention the word like love and everything, it's like our creator didn't just create this body, he also created this spirit, and the spirit is part of him as well. So to say that, like even when you're saying I love myself, you're saying you love him, likewise. And it's the same way as far as not being able to differentiate anything that's part of anything that has which is everything that has to do with the creator. It would be crazy or remiss to say I don't love. It's like you having a child of yours and you discipline them from doing something wrong, and you saying that I don't love you anymore. You won't say that. You still love them, but they have to be disciplined for doing something that they weren't supposed to be doing. But never, because you created them. They are part of you.
Conditional love is if you don't behave this way, I don't love you anymore, right? And
Right.
so unconditional love is regardless of how you behave, I love you, but I'm still going to discipline you for your own good and for various other things, right? But that
Yes.
still can be unconditional. So you, as sort of the creator of that child, can feel that way, and then the creator that created everything. Well, how could you not love everything because it was created by the creator? And yet, when you came back, you had these visions of these, 14 car pileups and war and various things. And so you always question, how is that part of creation and love? Well, it's not, we may not understand it just yet. We might understand it more as we get to the other side. Nonetheless, it's all a part of creation and a part of this overall experience that we came here to have.
Yes. It's the same. This way, I think it was in the scriptures where it says, I think where God says, how can you say you hate your brother who you see every day, but you say you love God who you've never seen?
Aha, there you go. Well said. Well, hey, that brings us to number 2, which is when you saw the planet with the circulating energy tree, what did it teach you about how life moves through us?
Wow. I guess just being. I don't remember having any, I guess, feeling for the most part. It also kind of, if, looking at it from the outside in, just like a confirmation that life does circulate from the physical up throughout the cosmos, every day, just by being. We're part of everything like that. It's almost like that tree was showing the connection of being the physical, connecting the physical, which is that planet, to the spiritual or even the terrestrial through that tree being there. It's almost showing that it's like all connected.
Yeah, I love it. All connected in that oftentimes people say, everything is one. We are all one. And that energy source flows through all of us. And it's really
Hmm.
the same at the end of the day. Yeah, that's wonderful. Now, number 3, I know a lot of experiences you had over there. You may have remembered and brought back with you, and other things might come to you later. And like the Andromeda realization came to you later, right? So, what do you think the timing of that recognition says about memory, meaning, and proof?
I think it confirms that consciousness goes beyond the physical, beyond the body. It's like you carry that consciousness wherever you go, and even when you come back to this body, because the body being physical, it has to be here, it has its place, and the consciousness just works through it. So when it comes down to like we have brain damage, like myself, it took a while for me to see that or understand or remember certain things, because again the brain, it still has to operate the way it's been designed to operate, and the spirit the same way. So when if my brain started to heal, of course, then my consciousness was like, okay, can you now remember what just happened.
Yeah, no, and it seems like when you saw that image of the Andromeda, galaxy that was in front of you on a computer or wherever, that's the thing that sparked the memory of, oh, that's the image I saw.
Yeah,
You might not have had a name for it, but a rose by any other name is still a rose. You
yeah.
still saw the Andromeda strain. You just didn't know what the name was until that correlation came to you. And so maybe more things might even come to you later as you experience things, as it's kind of like the integration process of bringing that all
Hmm.
back in. So that's pretty fun. Now, number 4, this one's pretty cool too. Your daughter's not yet, may have saved your life. What would you say to families standing in that moment between letting go and holding on?
Whew. That is that is almost a heavy one because I actually had that with a friend of mine recently, about a couple years ago. Her thing was, and it was just so ironic, was that her daughter had developed a blood clot in her leg that went up to her heart and stopped it. And then it just, the irony was like almost the same way that it happened. And when they were there at the hospital with her, but hers happened at the house and she didn't think anything of it. So she just let it go. And it happened like instantly there at the house. So she didn't have time to get to the hospital one time. So when it was at her bedside, they were waiting and they told me, this was kind of heavy when they told me, they said, we remembered what you went through. Remember what you did and what your family did, where they waited. We waited and everything. And we just knew that she was going to come back to us because you waited. And when they told me, it was heavy because I almost developed that survivor's remorse type thing. And I wasn't going to tell them that, no, your prayer wasn't heard. That wasn't the case. It was that every, I told them, I said, you did nothing wrong. And it's the same with everybody. When you have that hope, you do nothing wrong. You hold on as long as you feel you need to hold on, regardless. And whatever the outcome is, you have to humble yourself to accept that outcome, no matter how hard it is, and know that even if your loved one make that transitions, they are not gone. No one truly dies. And the love that you have for them and y'all have for each other, that your loved one still feels that because your loved one is part of everything. Your loved one is part of love. And that love is like a tether or umbilical cord that keeps you and your family member or the one who made that transitions connected. I know you want to see them in the flesh, but as long as you have them here and as long as you have that love, you're going to always be connected. It just sometimes take time and humility to hold on to that more or to accept it, accept that they're not gone. Even if it feels like they're gone, they're not gone.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for sure. When they're in that moment, they have to trust their intuition, that they
Hmm.
are doing the thing that makes the most sense to them. Make those right choices. Don't let someone else make it for them. Trust their intuition. Wait, wait, wait until you've waited long enough.
Hmm.
Uh, probably statistically, there's fewer people that come back from that than there are those, that go on through the transition. So maybe
Yeah.
those odds, and you can still hold out for as long as it makes sense to you. And then
Right.
that's also a great moment of confidence there that you share, that folks transitioning, they're still on the other side. They're connected with you through love. You'll see them again one day as we transition. This is what we hear from a lot of NDE experiences. That's why a lot of people listen to these podcasts for sure. Yeah, you can't know until you go through it, but folks like you that have done the NDE and gone to the other side and come back, it definitely gives us a glimpse and maybe a probability that it looks like that is the way that we transition. Which brings us to number 5. You described it as the best rest of my life. What's the closest you come to that feeling now in ordinary days?
I say while I'm awake and I'm conscious and I'm doing things, I haven't get anything close to it, but the closest that I get to it is when I'm in meditation. And I told my wife she loves space and everything. She said, well, I want to see what you're seeing. I want to see that. I said, not the way I saw it. I don't think you want that to happen. I said, but you can reach that peace. You can feel that peace through meditation. And she, like a lot of people told me, they said, well, I can't sit still for longer than 5 minutes or a few minutes and everything. Some say it's boring and everything. I said, but keep at it. You want that peace. I'm pretty sure the average person want that peace with the craziness that's going on in the world, with their jobs, with chaos and everything. Everybody deserves to have that peace. And you keep meditating, it takes practice. Just like anything, it takes practice. If you really, really want that peace, keep practicing meditation and let those thoughts keep coming. Let them come. But they will eventually stop. They will come to where they start to slow. And each time you do it, they will just get slower and slower and slower to where it just like stop and you won't even recognize them.
Yeah, that's great advice as well. The meditation, and some people are really intimidated by that. But let's talk about meditation for a minute. There might be ways where folks that haven't done it before, they could actually do a guided meditation where you get onto a recording and it has a soft voice and some music. And so if you say, listen, I can't do this for more than 5 minutes, maybe you can't sitting by yourself. But if you had that music and that voice and that guided meditation, you would be surprised. 20 minutes later, you'd still be there sitting and you might be fully relaxed. And that might be
Yes.
one of the first steps in, and then you might proceed to other various steps.
That's 100% true. And that's one of the things, like I tell people who have those issues by sitting still, I ask myself, what relaxes you? What makes you calm? I mean, everybody has something that relaxes them, whether it's the flowing, sound of flowing water or the smell of a certain scent or even raindrops or wind. I say sit and listen to those things. If it calms you and relax you, listen to them. Close your eyes, try to do your breathing techniques. I mean, slow your breathing and just breathe and whatever relaxes you. And even that which relaxes you would eventually dissipate out of, from your subconscious when you go into that meditative state. But those sounds and those things that relax you will at least help you get to that place. How my wife says this too. Some married couple said this too when they say, "You just drowning me out when I'm talking." It's the same way. It's like you listen to it for a certain period of time, and you listen to them to where it's like you drown them out. You don't hear anything else afterwards. It's the same way with those sounds and those things that relax you. Keep listening to it until it like your peace and your calmness drowns all those sounds out. It'll be worth it.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. And you combine that with breathing techniques, meditation with breathing, sort of the 4-8-4, the seconds or the counts that you give while you're inhaling and holding and exhaling. A
Mm-hmm.
bunch of things you can combine together and find practices, I think, that work for you. I know the first form of meditation I did years and years ago, I read some book on it. It was to do inventory on your body. And so you literally just go through it and you go like, my left foot is tight, and warm, and my ankle, boom, boom, and then my shin, and then my knee, and then you go all the way around the entire body. And if you're lying down and you do this, when you're done, you'll feel like you just melted into the bed. Now, it's really impossible because you can go through 2 or 3 or 4 body parts and all of a sudden you get distracted with the weather or a bill I have to pay or something. And then you go, oh, wait a minute, hold on. And you bring yourself back to it. And so many different forms. Find one that works for you. Find a dark closet that your child might have that works for you. Get the toys out of the way, and you will be surprised. Just wander into that world of relaxation, and you'll find a whole new inner self that you hadn't touched before. That'll be amazing. Well, hey, this
Yeah.
brings us into 6. So with number 6, we've got after 26 strokes and the ECMO life support, you had to relearn basic things. What part of your old identity did you let die, and what was born in its place?
Part of my identity that I had let die was worrying about things that didn't benefit me. Everything that happened before the incident, and it was a lot. I had a lot going on in my life around that time. All those things that happened soon as like throughout the years and I was going whatnot, I didn't think about. I forgot those things even happened and for a good reason. Sometimes I just tell my wife, I tell people, I said, when they say, you remember this? I'm like, I don't want to remember it. I'm glad it's gone because it helps me to keep moving on. And it helps me to start fresh with everything in my life. So where I don't bring what they say baggage into my life, rather it be a relationship, um, a romantic relationship or friendship relationship, regular decisions in your life as far as you should take this path or you should go there. Not remembering those things help me to just take care of now or worry about, or I don't even say concern myself with, but just be, just being, not just in that moment, but not letting my past dictate where I'm going to go or how I'm going to live my life. Because a lot that happened in my past is what actually stagnated me. It actually what got me sick. Worrying about things that I couldn't control, or worry about if I'm going to get into an argument when I go to my kid's house, or if I go this place. Not remembering those things and not even worrying about those things, it made it easier and less baggage to carry just going through life. Because as you can see, there's enough that's going on with life now than to have to think about what you used to go through. That's a lot.
That's right. That's great. The way you put that is life now, because we only live in the now, actually. If we're
Yeah.
worried, about things that happened in the past, we really are not our past, right? And if you're concerned about and stressed and have anxiety about things in the future, you're taking all of that negative energy, and that negative energy is messing with your frequency in your body, and it's probably giving you ailments that you just don't need. And this takes us back to, the meditation, the breathing techniques, the focusing on the now, releasing all of that, and to find ourselves better mentally, physically, spiritually. There's your opportunity right there. I think that's well said. Hey, this brings us to number 7, which is looking back in time. Now, we can't change anything back in time, and we really want everything that happened to us to have happened, because it makes us who we are today. But if you could hand your pre-August 2016 self a single sentence, what would it be?
We let go, let go, and keep moving, because you are going to need all the strength you have to handle the next thing that's coming.
Yes, that is wonderful. It's not only living in the now and let go of the past, but it's live in the now and make yourself stronger to handle that is coming your way.
Mhm.
Wow, that's brilliant. Hey, this takes us to number 8, which is, what specific meditation practice can a stressed listener try today to touch that same clarity without needing their own NDE?
There's also been people like who live in like small apartments, but even in the smallest apartment, wherever you are, there is a closet, or a bathroom. And I would say go in that closet or in that bathroom, all the lights out. Sometimes a lot of people don't know how to feel when it's just darkness. Their minds start going all over the place. But find that place where it's really dark and quiet and just be you. Put your hands in your lap, breathe, listen to yourself breathe, count yourself breathing, try the box method. That's breathing, inhale through your nose, count of 4, hold it for the count of 4, exhale for the count of 4, hold it for the count of 4, and you repeat. And by counting your breaths, you're taking, you're allowing your, is the word consciousness? You're allowing your thoughts to be focused more on your breathing. You're focusing on something that's natural, to the point, and when you focus on that enough and you're in this dark space, it's going to eventually, even counting your breaths is eventually going to dissipate and not be existent to your consciousness.
Well, that's really cool, because oftentimes people think that we multitask, but I don't think we do. I think we have one task at a time. Some people can context switch in between tasks really fast, and it looks like they're multitasking. But I think when you focus on your thoughts, you can really only think of one thing at a time. And
Yeah.
so rather than letting your thoughts run rampant wherever they want to go, you focus the thoughts on the breathing. So you count them the way you
Mm-hmm.
said. And if you're counting and focusing on that, your thoughts can't be doing something else.
You're
And I
right.
think that's great. So you're training them to kind of quiet down and be focused. And then after a while, you might even turn that into a rhythm where you're not even thinking of a number so much. You're just actually listening to the breath.
Yeah,
And now you're super focused, and so much stress and anxiety and various things can fall away. That's for sure. Well, hey,
yeah.
let's wrap this up with our ninth and final question. And what a profound one it is. Can't wait to hear your answer here.
Me too.
Finish this sentence. I am most grateful for blank because it keeps teaching me how to love.
Ooh. I am most thankful for my youngest daughter. I would say all my children because my youngest, she reminds me every day and teaches me about the for one, me knowing what it feel like to be new, that purity. She reminds me of that purity, what it feels like to be new, that love just for being, as the innocence of a child does. My older children, they're adults now, they are reminding me about unconditional love. Every day. you know, Dad, can I have this? Dad, can I have that? Making mistakes because you let them use the car, and they did this or you did that. It's like I couldn't love you any less, regardless on what just happened. We got to get the car fixed, but I still love you. That unconditional love. You can always find it through your children.
Yeah, I agree. And it's different at different phases, like you're saying too. When they're in those wonder years, they're real young and they're so innocent and they look to you for everything. It's such an amazing bonded connection in both ways. But you know what? The birds have to leave the nest. So
Yeah.
when they become teenagers, they have to show their independence. They have to be independent one day. They have to start strutting away and
Mm-hmm.
challenging you. And so, but like you said, you work through those challenges, but you still always have unconditional love. And then what's really fun is when they go and have their kids and they see how much fun
Aha.
it is. That's right.
Aha.
Well, hey, Jay, this has been the most fantastic podcast. I loved every minute of it. Thank you for sharing your story.
Likewise, thank you for having me. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm humbled and grateful for it. You have no idea. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. I feel the same way. And I love when folks come and they listen to this and they watch it and they leave comments in here. We can see how it's been helpful to others. As we wrap up, is there any summary or any final gift of wisdom you'd like to share?
We have a lot, so much going on in the world, and so many people that's passing away, either be diseases or even going through things. Like myself, I know you were there, mentioned that they just diagnosed me with prostate cancer. Um, Stay optimistic. Uh, Continue loving yourself first above anything and everything. And when someone says something you don't agree with, it doesn't mean you have to love them, not love them. It doesn't mean you have to hate them. You can love them, but love yourself, if not as much enough to where you keep yourself separate, physically separate, to where you can keep it together, to where you can continue nourishing you. That unconditional love that you may have for somebody, like I said, who's saying all kind of stuff or whatnot, it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. And you don't have any control over what they do, but you do have control over you. And if you love yourself like you say you love yourself, you will give yourself that much, if not more, attention that it needs. And no one truly dies.
All those are some serious words of wisdom. We talk about unconditional love all the time, and everything we do oftentimes is pointing outward, but do not forget unconditional love for yourself.
Yes.
Just as you said, you have to do that. And oftentimes, those that are of service to others, they find they're draining their cup and they have nothing more to give. And this causes them physical ailments. So fill your cup up full. And as it overflows, then be of service to
Yeah,
others as you do and you know and you love.
exactly. Exactly. Well said.
I got to tell you, Jay, thank you for your courage and your heart. From the Amber Tunnel to Andromeda, from 6 days on ECMO and 26 strokes to a whispered, "Will you marry me?" Your life now points to something simple and stunning. Love is alive and it works through us. I got to tell, if you're curious, about the meditation and then the aromatherapy resources, check out Jay's Daleth AM Sanctuary. He's got built in as a free hub to help people find their way. And we'll leave the links in the description below. Make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Beautiful. All right. Well, hey, to our listeners, if Jay's story moved you, be sure to like, subscribe, and share, and let us know in the comments. I get in there and reply to everyone I can find. And if this episode spoke to your heart, share it with someone who might need a little light today. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and go way beyond the illusion to discover your true self. Take care, everyone, and bye for now.